Libra, pay attention to what has been stirring inside you as August 28th, 2026 comes into focus, because this may feel less like an outside event and more like an inner restlessness asking you to understand where you are headed. You may notice impatience, a sudden desire to change direction, a stronger instinct about something, or the feeling that remaining where you are is becoming harder than taking the first step. But before turning that feeling into action, give yourself enough space to ask whether you truly want something or simply want something to happen. Your energy becomes more powerful when it has direction, and movement becomes more meaningful when it comes from intention rather than reaction. Think of a balance shifting in the wind. It may move quickly, but you still get to decide where you want to restore your balance. August 28th can therefore be approached as a symbolic moment of recognition and direction, especially when you notice a thought that keeps returning, a decision you have postponed, or an old pattern you are no longer willing to repeat. The question is not whether you are brave enough to change, Libra, but whether you are clear enough to know which change deserves your courage. Astrology and tarot cannot decide your life for you. They can simply offer symbols that help you recognize patterns and ask better questions. If something in this message does not fit your experience, you do not have to force it. But if a particular idea makes you think, that is exactly what I have been feeling, stay with that recognition and allow it to become clearer before you move. As you move through August 28th, we will consider love, money, health, family, and career, but first there is something more personal to examine: how you protect your energy. Libra, your desire for peace and harmony can be one of your greatest strengths. Yet being capable of understanding everyone else's perspective can quietly become a habit of carrying responsibilities that were never truly yours. You may step forward to solve problems, keep situations peaceful, support people, or make decisions simply because you do not want conflict to continue, until you are left carrying emotional weight that belongs to someone else. There is a difference between being supportive and believing you must keep everything balanced alone. You can care deeply without fixing every situation, and you can support someone without carrying their entire emotional world. Think of your inner balance as something that needs care rather than constant adjustment. When every outside demand pulls at it, your own priorities become harder to see. You may eventually notice impatience, scattered thoughts, exhaustion, or a strange distance from goals that once made you feel alive. This is why August 28th is less about proving that you are ready to act and more about deciding what is actually worthy of your energy. Do not become so available to every problem around you that you lose contact with your own direction. Your dreams deserve attention too. If vivid dreams, old memories, unusual images, or unexplained emotions have been surfacing, you do not need to treat every detail literally. Simply notice the feeling that remains when you wake. Did you feel excited, unsettled, relieved, angry, or hopeful? What part of your waking life carries that same emotional charge? You do not have to force an interpretation, because sometimes the value of a dream is simply that it reveals something your conscious mind has been moving too quickly to notice. If your surroundings have felt chaotic or anxiety has been making you restless, resist the urge to answer every disturbance with more movement. You do not have to keep yourself constantly stimulated simply because stillness feels uncomfortable. Return to whatever helps you settle. Time in nature, quiet music, reading, gentle movement, or enough solitude to hear your own thoughts again. Rest does not take your strength away. Sometimes it helps you remember where you want that strength to go. You may also notice subtle changes in your physical energy or the way you feel about yourself. Rather than judging those changes, use them as an opportunity to ask how you have been living and what your body may be telling you about the pace you are keeping. Are your habits supporting the life you want? Or are you constantly reaching for the next goal while overlooking what is happening inside you? That question becomes especially important in your professional life. Libra, your ability to cooperate, communicate, negotiate, and see different sides of a situation is powerful, but you may sometimes spend so much energy considering every possibility that your own decision becomes harder to hear. There may be a project, responsibility, business idea, or professional direction that remains unfinished because the situation became complicated or another opportunity captured your attention. But that does not automatically mean you need to finish everything you have ever started. The deeper question is whether something still matters to you, whether it can realistically move forward, or whether you are holding on to it because walking away feels like defeat. Sometimes courage means returning to the work and completing the step you have avoided. Other times it means recognizing that your energy belongs somewhere else. Do not keep fighting simply because you are accustomed to maintaining peace. Look at what remains unfinished and decide consciously whether the next move is completion, adjustment, or release. The same awareness applies to your health. There may be a checkup, appointment, routine, or concern you have postponed because something else always seems more urgent. Your well-being cannot remain at the bottom of the list. Small concerns are easier to address while they are manageable, and caring for yourself does not have to wait until every other responsibility is finished. Give your body the same consideration you give your goals and listen when it asks for your attention. When we move into love and relationships, the energy becomes more intimate. Libra, connection is not only about romance or knowing what you want. It also asks whether you can slow down enough to understand another person's emotional reality. If you are in a relationship, consider whether you have been communicating openly or assuming your partner should simply know what you mean. Sometimes love grows through patience, genuine listening, and the willingness to admit that you do not have every answer. A thoughtful word can soften tension, and an honest conversation can create more closeness than another attempt to keep everything perfectly balanced. You do not have to turn every disagreement into something that needs to be won, and you do not have to hide vulnerability because emotional openness feels unfamiliar. Let the other person meet the real you, not only the version that knows how to stay calm and keep everything together. Intimacy deepens when both people are allowed to be seen. If you are single, there may also be room for an unexpected romantic development or for someone to reveal an interest you did not anticipate. If that happens, resist the urge to decide the entire meaning of the connection immediately. You may feel a powerful spark, but chemistry alone cannot tell you whether two people can meet with respect, curiosity, and emotional honesty. Allow the connection to reveal itself and notice whether you feel invited to be yourself rather than challenged to prove something. You may feel an immediate pull toward someone or toward the possibility of a new connection, but you do not have to decide its destination the moment you feel the spark. Deeper love often asks you to remain present long enough to discover what exists beneath the first rush of excitement. Now we move toward money, where the deeper question for Libra is not simply how much you can gain, but what deserves your time, attention, and resources. You may have invested considerable effort into a career goal, personal project, or financial plan. August 28th can become a useful point for examining whether your current strategy truly reflects what you want to build. Your instinct to consider every side can be valuable, but action becomes far more effective when it has a clear purpose behind it. Instead of being driven by the excitement of pursuing every possibility that crosses your path, there may be encouraging movement around something you have already been developing, especially if you have remained committed while learning from setbacks and adjusting your approach. An opportunity may deserve your attention, but you do not have to label every attractive possibility a breakthrough. Before committing your energy, ask whether it genuinely supports the direction you want your life to take and whether it gives your effort somewhere meaningful to grow. The symbolic cards surrounding this reading bring a message of practical beginnings, resilience, hope, and new direction. The Ace of Pentacles represents an idea, possibility, or opening becoming tangible enough to require a real decision. It can symbolize a new project, professional opportunity, practical beginning, or chance to turn something you have been considering into something you can actually build. The important question is not simply whether it excites you, but whether you are prepared to give it patience, structure, consistency, and attention. A promising beginning becomes valuable through what you choose to do after the excitement settles. The Seven of Wands asks you to look closely at what you are actually willing to stand up for. You may encounter pressure, competing demands, strong opinions, or people who seem determined to pull your attention away from what you have chosen to build. For Libra, the deeper challenge may not be simply standing your ground. It may be recognizing when something genuinely deserves your energy and when responding to every challenge only drains the strength needed for something more important. Not every criticism requires an answer. Not every disagreement needs to become a battle, and not every person who questions your choices deserves the power to redirect them. You can remain firm without living in a constant state of defense. The star then brings a softer atmosphere of hope, healing, renewal, and restored confidence. If you have been moving through disappointment, uncertainty, or emotional exhaustion, this card reminds you that strength does not have to remain tense forever. There is another kind of courage that appears when you allow yourself to believe in something again after life has given you reasons to become guarded. The star speaks of gradually reconnecting with possibility and remembering that your life does not have to be defined only by difficult experiences. You may not have every answer yet, but hope can still have a place in the way you move forward. Then comes the Fool, carrying a meaningful message about beginning again. Its invitation is not simply to leap because you are restless. It is about becoming willing to begin again when the old path no longer reflects the person you are becoming. The Fool can speak to a new personal direction, professional venture, creative idea, or experience that asks you to step beyond what has become familiar. You may not be able to see every consequence before you begin, and uncertainty alone does not mean that the choice is wrong. For you, Libra, the deeper lesson is that balance and hesitation are not the same thing. You do not need a perfect map before taking the first step, but you can still know why you are taking it. Let curiosity stand beside instinct, and let excitement be informed by awareness rather than controlled by impatience. When the reading turns toward the heart, the Two of Cups appears, bringing another important dimension to your growth. This card speaks of mutual recognition, emotional balance, respect, and the kind of connection where two people can meet without either person needing to control the entire direction of the relationship. Its message can apply to romance, friendship, or an important professional bond because the deeper theme is reciprocity. Both people are seen, both have a voice, and both contribute to what is being created between them. For Libra, this is especially meaningful because partnership can be one of your greatest sources of strength. But healthy connection does not require you to constantly compromise your own needs. If you are already in a relationship, the Two of Cups can symbolize a period when emotional understanding becomes easier because both people are willing to listen instead of simply defending their own position. If you are seeking love, you may find yourself more drawn towards someone whose presence feels balanced rather than someone who creates only an intense first reaction. This energy also reaches your family life. You may notice certain interactions becoming warmer, especially where distance or misunderstanding has created tension. The goal does not have to be forcing everyone to agree. Healing can begin when people become willing to hear one another without immediately defending their own position. The Ace of Pentacles can add a practical layer through shared responsibilities, a financial decision, a change in the home, or something constructive that gives people a reason to build together. The Star reminds you that old emotional distance can soften when compassion is allowed to enter the space where resentment once lived. At the same time, the Seven of Wands reminds you that supporting the people you love does not require you to absorb every outside problem that reaches your home. You can protect the peace of those you care about without becoming the person who fights every battle for them. Libra, your energy around August 28th may feel more focused, and you may become increasingly aware of where your attention is going and what genuinely deserves it. Your natural ability to create harmony remains powerful, but maturity asks a different question. Can you remain compassionate without constantly sacrificing your own direction? Once you decide something matters, you can put meaningful energy behind it. But sometimes stepping back is part of moving wisely. Rest does not erase momentum, and pausing does not mean you have lost courage. A balanced life needs space to breathe. If you never allow yourself to recover, pressure can eventually spill into your relationships, health, and the very goals you are trying to protect. For students, this message carries another important layer. Do not decide something is impossible before giving yourself the chance to learn it. Limiting beliefs can become walls long before circumstances create a real barrier, especially when you judge your ability before developing the skill. You are capable of learning more than you currently know, especially when curiosity becomes stronger than the fear of getting something wrong. Courage does not require you to believe you will succeed before beginning. It asks you to begin, adjust, learn, and try again when experience teaches you something unexpected. When it comes to compatibility, rather than treating another sign as a guaranteed match, consider the qualities different people can bring into your life. Gemini can complement your social intelligence with curiosity and communication. Aquarius can encourage you to see familiar situations differently, and Leo can bring confidence, warmth, and strong personal expression. But the deeper question is not simply which sign is compatible with Libra. It is which relationships allow you to remain fully yourself while becoming more aware of how you affect others. August 28th ultimately points toward awareness, choice, resilience, balance, and intentional movement. These symbolic reflections are not commands about what must happen. They are tools for recognizing patterns, noticing possibilities, and deciding which direction truly deserves your energy. Remember that your strength is not measured by how quickly you respond to every challenge or how much you can carry without help. There is another kind of courage available to you now. The courage to pause, listen, choose carefully, and then move with your whole heart. Once you know why you are moving, your next step does not need to be the fastest one.